Hey, Nugget listeners. Today I'm sharing a 30-minute section from an episode of my new podcast, Something Different with Stephen Dimmitt. My guest is Robb Wolf, who I've had on The Nugget before, back in episode 80, if you want to check that one out. That was published in August 2021, so a little over 4 years ago. And if you need a refresher, Robb Wolf is the New York Times bestselling author of The Paleo Solution and Wired to Eat, and is a leading voice in health, fitness, and nutrition. He also co-authored a book called Sacred Cow that I'm a huge fan of about regenerative agriculture. Robb is a former research biochemist with a deep background in evolutionary biology and a co-founder of Element, a sugar-free electrolyte supplement company. And most of the full episode had nothing to do with climbing, but I wanted to share the last 30 minutes with you guys because we get into some practical advice for athletes looking to optimize their performance. So in the short segment that you're about to hear, we cover the benefits of vitamin D and how to get more vitamin D in your life if you're starved for time or spend most of your days behind a computer screen like I do. We also talked about zone 2 cardio and VO2 max as a longevity marker and some clever hacks for making cardio less boring. And we talked about why you should separate your strength training from your conditioning and cardio if you want to maximize your gains. That was very interesting as well. Robb has also faced some pretty extreme health challenges lately, and in the last part of this segment, he shares his biggest takeaways from going through that experience, which might be helpful for some of you, especially if any of you are dealing with gut issues or any other confusing or frustrating health challenges. And that's it. If you want to check out the full episode or listen to more episodes of my new show, search for Something Different with Stephen Dimmitt wherever you get your podcasts. Full episodes are also available to watch on YouTube. Here's Robb Wolf, and I hope you enjoy. What do you think of exogenous vitamin D, like droplets, like the vitamin D K2 droplets versus sunlight?
I think they're great as kind of a stopgap, but when we make vitamin D, we start with cholesterol, and then there's this whole cascade of going from cholesterol to vitamin D, and all of those intermediates are themselves signaling molecules. So they have a role to play, like. And there's the vitamin D itself. There's a reality that both UVA and UVB have these other effects like nitric oxide release, mood, immune modulation, and whatnot. So you've got vitamin D just as an active hormone itself. And then you have all the intermediates, and then you have the reality that the light itself has an impact on us, potentially. And again, a dose response curve. Like it's kind of funny, when I start talking about getting safe, reasonable sun exposure, like all the ginger moms come out like, oh, my kid's sunburn. It's like, okay, I get it that your kid is nearly a vampire. I'm not saying turn them into a leather handbag. For your kid, it may be 5 minutes front, 5 minutes back, and then a hat, long sleeve shirt. Like you gotta cover them up. Like there is a reality that there are some people who have super low photo tolerance. It can be expanded over time, but I use the D-Minder app. It takes your skin type and it will figure out your latitude, and then it will give you it will help you optimize your vitamin D production while in theory minimizing skin damage and overexposure. There's a dose response curve to everything, exercise, vitamins, food, and there's usually kind of a U curve. At very low levels of it, it's bad. At very high levels of it, it's bad. And there's usually some sort of a sweet spot optimization, where you get the most benefits and the least downsides with it. Yeah,
that's cool. That's all helpful to hear. I recently did blood work, and vitamin D was one of the things that I noticed that came back, and it was. The reference range is massive, right? So it was normal, but it was like 30, low 30s, something like that, which is like low end of normal. And I had been, this is recently, so we're talking in, late July, and I had been going on shirtless walks 3 times a day, 15 minutes each, And I'm like, man, I spend most of my time in front of the computer, like most people. Like, I really don't know if I can fit more sun exposure into my schedule, and I'm still on the very low end of normal.
Mhm.
So I started supplementing more. So yeah, I was curious to ask about that.
Yeah, I ended up getting a UVA, UVB lamp that also has infrared built into it.
Mm.
And so I'll do 5 minutes front, 5 minutes back on that. And in theory, I get about 5,000 IUs out of that. And then I'll usually supplement another 2 to 5,000 IUs on top of that
Oh
most
wow,
days. Or
wow, yeah.
if I'm able to do the lamp and then I do get some time outside, then I'll just kind of monitor that time and try to finish somewhere between 7 and 10,000 IUs a day most days.
Wow, that's a
And that
lot.
puts me usually when I've been testing, I'm in like the mid 60s for the most part. Yeah.
Is there an optimal as far as I don't know what the units are, but
There's a big spectrum on that. Like darker skin folks probably benefit from higher levels of vitamin D. Lighter skin folks may actually be okay at lower levels, and this is where some genetic testing can help figure some of that stuff out. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
interesting. All right. Okay, what did I want to make sure that we hit on here? I have a lot of athletes that listen to my show, so I want to ask a couple questions about athletic or performance specific
Yeah.
science and studies you've shared. You shared an interesting study recently on your Instagram that separating strength work and conditioning days will double your gains. Do you want to talk about that? I thought that was a good PSA for people. I've definitely made the mistake, or sometimes it's unavoidable when you're in your sport. Like climbing is a strength sport sometimes it's a glycolytics
Hmm.
sport, sometimes it's an endurance sport, right? It's all the things. But yeah, with your training, can you talk about that a little bit? Is it best to completely separate strength work from conditioning, from aerobic work?
It completely depends on your goals.
Okay.
And so if you do something like CrossFit or High Rocks or something where you've got in general, the modalities mixed, you'll get stronger, you will get fitter. But if you want to maximize that stuff, we've understood for a long time that endurance work definitely interferes with the adaptations with strength work. Like it's probably most powerful that you're trying to drive the system into two different pathways. You've got like the AMPK pathway versus the mTOR pathways. mTOR is very much like kind of growth oriented. AMPK more kind of tear down, and also gets activated under aerobic endurance type activities. And the two just are completely at odds with each other. And it's not to say, like, if you've never done training before and you go in and you start doing, let's say you did 400-meter run at a modest pace, and then whatever push up you could do. Let's say you start off and you're doing a push up against a counter, and then like a body row, which is gymnastics range with your feet on the ground. You could progress that thing such that, let's say you do the run at the same pace, but you eventually get to where you can do feet up on a box, so somewhat elevated push-ups, and let's say it's 10, and then the body row, the same thing, like feet up on a box and 10 body rows. You're much stronger by the end of that. But if you really wanted to optimize strength, we would decouple that strength characteristics of that process from the endurance characteristics. And then if you like, depending on your sport, so like a CrossFit athlete or something like that, the funny thing is, for over a decade, like the people winning these things, this is exactly what they do. They separate out these modalities. And then when they get within about 2 months, about 8 weeks out, it looks very much like an MMA fight camp where they start sticking those modalities together and they peak for
Hmm.
the event. But they've gotten both stronger in the strength elements. They've worked the power endurance. Like there's all these different endurance characteristics, VO2 max, peripheral heart action activity, all this type of stuff that one can do. And so you've done kind of little training blocks around all that. And then you peak and you put all that stuff together and you do your Franz and Helens and all that type of stuff to really weld all that stuff together, because that is your sport. So, if one is short on time, I think you would be hard pressed to beat something that looks like a circuit based strength and endurance type.
Hit intervals or something like that.
Yeah. Like you could do the strength work at the beginning and then finish it with some cardio or hit intervals or something like that. It will minimize some of your adaptation to the strength work, but it's not like it just overwrites it and it just goes away. It's just not going to be as impactful. You're not going to get the same benefits out of the strength work as if you'd been able to separate it. But it's not like you don't get nothing. You still do get something. But I think this becomes more and more germane the higher up the chain people want to compete. Like if they really want to be at the top end of their sport, whether it's jiu-jitsu or kickboxing or rock climbing or whatever, then you need to be more mindful about like a 2 to 5% difference in performance is the difference between like winning and not even remotely showing up at you're not even in the top 10 of a regional event, to say nothing of, like national or international or whatnot. It's a massive spread there. So I think that circuit training, mixed modality training can be fantastic for the general population. I still think that there's also arguments for at least some of the year, like separating out those modalities so you can really focus on the technical aspects of the strength elements. Like a deadlift probably shouldn't be learned at 180 beat per minute heart rate, even if it's light. Like, and some of the benefit of the things like the power lifts and the Olympic lifts and whatnot and gymnastics is that you learn how to develop this like full body tension. Mm-hmm. What I find a little bit challenging or potentially negative about some of the mixed modality stuff, the squatting, the deadlifting, lifting under high load, high aerobic load, is that people purposefully relax the trunk and the trunk musculature so they can breathe. So what I find is it's like the psoas and the paraspinals and stuff that are disproportionately carrying the load. So people basically learn how to relax under significant load, which I don't think long term is really something that you want to do. And it's what I co-founded the first and fourth CrossFit gyms in the world, and we coached people to the CrossFit Games. Had a fourth place CrossFit Games finisher, had a third place CrossFit Games team, and there's great laudable characteristics to it, and there's also downsides. Like this is one of these things that it's so hard for me. There's a great economist, Thomas Sowell. And he says, there are no solutions or trade-offs. And it's hard to get people to wrap their head around that. Like they get so provincial around this.
They want to know what's best.
Yeah, and best is super situationally specific. Like Who are you? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? I have an okay amount of elective time, and my main physical activity is jiu-jitsu and then just being generally fit. I want to be mobile. I don't want hip replacements and shoulder replacements and all this stuff. And so I separate out my modalities most of the time. If I'm on the road and I'm in a hurry, then I'm going to get on a treadmill and it's like 400 meter, incline walk. And then I hop off and it's some bent rows, some standing press or like pull-ups and push-ups, 5 rounds of that. I get some strength. I get some cardio. It took me 30 minutes front to back. I've got 30 more minutes to do mobility and cool down. And I did it in a hotel gym, So I think people need to be a lot better at just kind of delineating what is it that you want to do? What do you like doing? Some people just love the mixed modality training like CrossFit and High Rocks. And also to get community out of that too. You got a group of people that you're working out with and suffering with. That's great. Like maybe you don't want to just go to a Globo gym and lift weights because it's boring and like everybody puts on headphones and they try to hide from each other. So there's a lot of moving parts to that stuff, and people get it's hard to find people that are able to delineate the trade-offs between all that and then just arrive at like, well, I'm doing this because of XYZ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for your thoughts on that. That's helpful. I think climbing as a whole understands this pretty well. I think, we've moved into what's really popular these days is kind of a non-linear periodization where you have your strength workout days and your, power endurance or glycolytic days, and then your more aerobic days, and you maybe prioritize one a little more for a block and then shift towards the other, and then finally put it all together and sharpen the sword, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of people understand that, but it's still really helpful to get your thoughts on that. I also wanted to ask you about zone 2 cardio. This is something I've massively neglected in all of my podcasts because I don't like doing it, so I avoid talking about it. What's the deal with zone 2 cardio? How important is it for athletes, and how important is it for general health?
It's funny if we were to put one really defensible benchmark, line in the sand about for longevity, both health span and lifespan, it's VO2 max. And it pains me to say that because I like lifting weights more than cardio, but it's kind of a reality. And it was Joel Jamieson who really put this on my map, and he has the Morpheus heart rate monitor platform. I use that and strongly recommend it for folks. It'll give you a daily readiness score. It will give you a prescription based off of your goals about how much zone 2, zone 3, higher end intensity stuff that you should be doing each week. I wear it while I do jujitsu, and then I also wear it doing the cardio stuff. And I don't enjoy doing it, but I definitely feel a lot better. Like I tend to be more sympathetic dominant because of my autoimmune stuff, because of some gut inflammation, and that zone 2 work just like drops me down into parasympathetic mode. Like it just makes me more relaxed. I feel way better, more optimistic, and that is the engine. Like if you have any amount of endurance demand to your sport, and I would say like the most minimal aspect of this would be like a shot putter or something. It's like they don't need much endurance, but those people will still they'll drag a sled 10 minutes frontward, 10 minutes backwards, a couple of times a week, just for a little bit of aerobic capacity. Because what folks have found over decades of research is without that base level of aerobic capacity, just a little bit, is that you don't recover as well. Like that is your metabolic engine that allows one to recover, even if your activity like a high jumper or a sprinter. But again, like a field athlete, discus, shot put, hammer, I mean, that's like, bam, you just turn it on and go. If they have a little bit of aerobic capacity, then they recover better, and then they're able to train harder. And the West Side Barbell guys, the powerlifting folks, really discovered this. Like these dudes were just getting huge, just lifting weights. And what they found is that their work capacity was so low, they couldn't lift the amount of weights that they needed to lift to continue to progress until they just got a little bit of strength capacity. And so they would get a sled and they'd walk 100 meters frontwards, 100 meters backwards, 100 meters of pressing, 100 meters of pulling, and they would do 30 minutes of that. And that was their cardio. They would be 115 to 130 beats per minute during that thing, and doing it in a way that wasn't causing a fiber type shift, taking them from the fast twitch to more endurance-paced activity, because it was spreading the load over the whole body and it wasn't a massive demand. So, like jujitsu or grappling, combative sports need a lot more of an aerobic base. So you're going to do more, more in that genre. Rock climbing, I would put like you need a little bit of aerobic capacity, but
definitely.
probably not a massive amount. And again, it may just be as simple as like you sleep better, you recover better. So then you can go in and do that really strength and technical base stuff better because your aerobic base is there. And again, I guess from a health and longevity standpoint like that, the mitochondrial density, the metabolic health that tends to come about from the zone 2 is huge. And what I've done, I've got a treadmill, which I put at an incline 15 degrees, and I walk on it. And then I got a slide board, like you put little booties on your shoes and you do like ice skating movement side to side, which I find is great for my knees because you laterally load the knees. And I never find that you're really able to laterally load the knees unless you're ice skating or skiing or something like that. And I've got a ski erg, and I have a Concept 2 rower, and I have a jump rope. And then I have some really, really super light kettlebells that'll swing for high reps also, and kind of mix into that. But I'll do 10 minutes on each one. So I'll have 6 different stations that are generally pretty full body. Like the treadmill is more lower body, but a bunch of these other things are more full body. So I'll do 10 minutes on one, 10 minutes on one, 10 minutes on one. I'm studying Italian right now, and so I'll watch a TV show that I like with the subtitles in English and the language in Italian. And so I'm getting halfway decent at Italian while I do my cardio, and it's not as boring. And like even 10 minutes of tread on the treadmill, 10 minutes of rowing, 10 minutes, it's not that long. So even though any given modality, an hour of it would probably suck, I'm shifting from one thing to another to another. And it's been a little bit of an economic investment, but like you can get these slide boards off of Amazon for $60. You could have a jump rope. You could get a Schwinn Airdyne off of like Facebook Marketplace for a couple $100. For less than $1,000, you could have maybe 3 or 4 different things that you could use to build a pretty cool cardio circuit.
Oh, for sure.
Do indoors, outdoors, any time of year. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably for less than a couple $100. I've found some rowers. I haven't bought one yet, but I found some rowing machines on Facebook Marketplace for $50 to $100 sometimes.
Yeah.
And you get a kettlebell and that's cool. How often do you do that every day, or how often do you try to? So
in theory, I do jujitsu 2 to 4 times a week, and it's been really fractured with the summer. My kids are doing 4-H and showing animals, and the summers in Montana are so damn short that like it's hard. If the day is sunny, like it's hard to go into the gym. So I've been a little bit hit and miss, but so I use this Morpheus app that gives me a weekly training allotment. See if I can pull this thing up. And I'm not like associated with these guys at all. I just think it's a great platform, and
similar to like a Whoop strap.
You use a heart rate monitor, but the difference, and I don't know if like on the video for the folks watching, it gives me a weekly breakdown. Like I've got for this week, I should hit 185 to 250 minutes of zone 2, 14 to 25 minutes of conditioning, which would be kind of like zone 3, and then 6 to 15 minutes of red line, which is overload, which would be kind of like the zone 5, like anaerobic type stuff. And so I'll wear that to jujitsu, and I try to do a pretty relaxed jujitsu game. Like I just try to be as relaxed and efficient as I can, but I will aggregate whatever I get from jujitsu. And then on my non-jiu-jitsu days, I'll lift, and I've got a 3-day split that I kind of, squat, hinge, press, pull, vertical, horizontal, bunch of mobility stuff, a bunch of trunk work. I've really geeked out on like the knee over toes guy material, and also the low back ability guys. Like I had a back injury, I had some other stuff, and the material those guys presented really helped me a lot. So I've got a 3-day template on that. And then near the end of the week, when I don't have any more jujitsu, if I still have conditioning I need to do, then that's where I'll drop in the aerobic circuits with all my gear. Or if I can't go to jujitsu, then I'll go out and do an aerobic day on the day I would have done jujitsu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that seems attainable. When you first described that hour circuit, I was like, oh God. Every day? Do you have to do that every day?
No, I don't do it every day.
Yeah.
I'm doing, jujitsu the other days. And it's funny because I'm enjoying studying the Italian, and I find a show that I really like I'll rewatch like Deadpool and Wolverine in Italian. And like, because they're cursing in there all the time. So I'm learning all these great Italian curse terms. Perfect. It's great. It's really entertaining. I'm learning a language at the same time. And that
makes
10
you want to do it
at each station really isn't that big of a deal. I actually look forward to it. Yeah. I'm actually
cool.
kind of, I can't wait to get out there. Yeah.
I find that for myself, you're inspiring me. I think there's a way to make indoor training cardio a lot more fun. But I find for myself, I really have to try to hack and like make my lifestyle, design my lifestyle in such a way that cardio is inevitable. Like for instance, with climbing, it's really easy. If I'm climbing outside a lot, you're hiking with a backpack, you're hiking with big crash pads for bouldering. And I get a decent amount of hiking in season. And I like going on walks. Walks are easy. I enjoy them. I try to get the three 10-minute walks at least in throughout the day. But then what I've done most recently, which I think is going to be a really powerful zone 2 cardio hack for me, is I finally got into bike commuting. I've always driven to work. Right now I'm in a co-working space. It's like a 10-minute drive or like a 15, 20-minute bike ride from my girlfriend's apartment. And I was just driving to the co-working space every day. And I decided to get a little fixie commuter bike off of Facebook Marketplace. And I've just been, all of a sudden I'm getting 30 to 40 minutes of cardio every day, just riding to and from the co-working space. So that's been really really powerful.
Yeah,
it's
when you
fun.
can make it incidental like that, it's easy.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
You're 53 now. Any other new or different habits that have become increasingly important for you?
Definitely sleep just becomes ever more important to protect. Like I'm sometimes kind of regretful because we have these really beautiful Montana evenings, but we live far enough north that like the sun doesn't set in the summer until pretty late. And like I want to go to bed because I can't, I need like 8.5 to 9 hours of sleep to really be firing on
I'm the same
all
way.
cylinders. And so definitely sleep is a big deal. I had discovered recently that I had some really serious health problems and I couldn't figure them out, definitely gut related. And in working with Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, we figured out that I had Giardia, a roundworm, and a massive candida overgrowth. And I had caught the Giardia swimming in the Guadalupe River in Texas. I unfortunately got the roundworm at a farm to table dinner a number of years ago. And I remember getting sick after both of these things. And that the candida overgrowth happened because my guts were just a mess and it just kind of opportunistically overgrew.
Wow.
And I mean, I was dying. 4 months ago, I was a disaster, like really losing weight, super poor physical capacity, tons of brain fog. And in theory, I'm like a reasonably well steeped person on gut health and like interventions for addressing
99th percentile in the world, probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I had no idea what to do. And I had done an O&P and ova and parasite like 4 times, and they came back negative. And it's a test for trying to determine if one has different types of parasites. But if you look at like the USDA or FDA website talking about ova O&P tests, they have a 50% error rate.
Oh,
and
wow.
So Dr. Lyon is married to a retired SEAL. She's done a lot of work within the SEAL teams, and these guys will get deployed. They have to eat dodgy food, drink dodgy water sometimes, and they'll come back and their guts are messed up, and nobody was figuring out what was going on with these guys. And so I don't know what the process was. Maybe you can get her on the show and maybe she'll divulge the process, but she found a university in Africa of all places that they do like live stool culture. The thing was super expensive because we had to get it from my house to Africa in less than like 48 hours.
Wow.
Like the shipping was
your poop
super expensive to get that bolus of poop over there. But they do microscopy to identify this stuff, and where they're located, they identify parasites all the time. They're not relying on like PCR and some of these other things to identify stuff. So they found the Giardia, found the roundworm, and the roundworm is typically found in sheep and goats. You end up getting that when folks have not properly composted the sheep and goat manure, and their parasites end up then on the food. So
wow.
You have to really compost the manure, get it to 160 degrees. Like there's a whole process to that. And it happens every once in a while. It happens in France quite a bit because they're pretty big into regenerative ag, but not everybody does the proper like fermenting of that stuff to kill the microbial cysts that are in there. So I had to treat the Giardia first, then the roundworm, and then the Candida. And I went through a full sequence on that 6 months ago, felt pretty good, started declining really badly, felt awful again, and just like GI stuff, like pooping every 15 minutes. Like it was awful. And the Candida had come back, and Dr. Lyon suspected that I had a biofilm that had allowed the Candida to protect itself from that initial, I think I did fluconazole the first time. So we did itraconazole the second time, and we also did this whole assortment of items to break up biofilms, and it was awful. Like I was so sick. Like I was sick before, but the process of getting rid of this stuff was so awful that I was kind of like, I think I just kind of want to die.
It had to get worse before it got better.
Yeah, I got much worse before it got better, but I've been doing pretty good since then. Knock on wood, I'm maybe 3 months downrange. And before doing all this, like if I ate regular dairy, cheese, yogurt, my hands would hurt. Like it was like a rheumatoid arthritis type thing. Tomatoes would make my hands hurt. Curries, any of that nightshade stuff would flare that up. I have no issues with that now. My digestion is generally much, much better. My carb tolerance has improved a little bit. Like I still don't do a ton, but I definitely do a little bit better. I feel like I have celiac, so I shouldn't eat gluten, and I don't consciously, but every once in a while you get a little cross contamination. I feel like I'm more resilient on that. Like I just feel like my gut is more resilient. I don't know for sure, like that's completely anecdotal thing, but I know for a fact like my ability to tolerate dairy and nightshades and all that type of stuff are shockingly improved. So just like the breadth of food that I can eat now is dramatically expanded, which is really nice. I was down to eating just kind of like a carnivore diet, and even that wasn't it was keeping me alive, but I wasn't thriving on it because I had three different intestinal parasites. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I would just throw that out there that man, I wanted to give up. Like I really wanted to give up. Like, pricing out piano wire on Amazon, type thing. And but two kids, a wife, a good life. And so I kept fighting in there, but it was hard because again, like I am pretty good at this stuff. I've helped a lot of people with gut health, and I just didn't fucking know what to do. But I had just kind of offhand posted something on Twitter or X or whatever it is, and it's like, hey, I look decent for a 53-year-old guy externally, but I've still got some problems and I'm still fighting. And the goal was to try to inspire people to keep, hanging the fight. But Dr. Lyon is a good friend of mine, and God bless her, because she was like, hey, I want to take a crack at figuring this out. I'm like, let's do it. Like nothing to lose, no ego. And thank God. But like she was able to figure out what was going on with me and really help me. It was a shit process to get through it. Like it was awful. Like it was really awful to get through it. But I had gotten better the one time, and then things got worse. Like when I was rechecked on the candida was so high that both Dr. Lyon and the other doctors I have that are friends, they have never seen someone with candida that high that wasn't hospitalized.
Wow.
Like normally they were like, I don't know how you're even standing. Like, because it just it interrupts like mitochondrial function and gut function, and you just feel awful. So yeah. But I was doing everything else right. I was getting vitamin D. I was getting sun. I was doing a little zone 2 cardio. I have a meaningful life. And so those other things were probably the difference between like literally dying or being hospitalized and still being able to motor forward.
And so is the takeaway for folks just to keep advocating for yourself, keep fighting for better health, just trusting and hoping that it's possible to
never give up. Never fucking give up, and sometimes you got to be a little stoic about it and just like understand maybe I'm never going to have the health that I had in my 20s, but I'm actually now at a place that is better than it's probably been in 15 years.
Wow.
20 years, maybe. Like I feel pretty good.
Wow.
I can still fuck myself up if I don't sleep, if I overtrain, I gotta paint within some lane lines, but I feel pretty good. And so, yeah, and I mean, I seriously, I was sicker than anybody really has a right to be, and we managed to figure out some stuff and move forward with it. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm glad to hear it, man.
Me too. I love my kids, love my wife. I feel like I have some meaningful work left to do. And if it was going to be my time, it's like, okay, I had the best run that I could, but I wasn't ready to be done. I don't know though that anybody is ever really ready to be done, but I really wasn't.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And I mean, you're doing so much to help people. I want to let you go. We didn't have time to talk about the Healthy Rebellion, but I just want to briefly let people know that you have this amazing online community that you and your wife have built, where you're helping people do exactly what you're talking about, get to the root cause of their health issues and escape this churn of more pharmaceuticals and more symptoms and more pharmaceuticals, and doctors that aren't really giving them the time of day, or they're frustrated, things like that. And I was part of that community for a year, I think, back in like 2019, maybe, I can't remember, but it was beautiful to just see so many health transformations and to be a part of a group of people who are all like-minded and working towards similar goals. And you guys have the Healthy Rebellion radio podcast where you answer really interesting questions. I always learn from that. I have some stuff right now that I'm trying to figure out, triangulating like my HbA1c and some other blood work and whatnot. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk to Dr. Anthony J about, and maybe get another consultation as well from another doctor. But yeah, you're doing really important work in the world, man. And I'm really glad that you're feeling good, that you sorted some stuff out. I hope it persists and continues to improve. And I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. It was great reconnecting with you.
Likewise. Is there anything else you want people to know about before I let you go?
Get outside, get some sun, do the stuff you enjoy, and try not to major in the minors. Like try to figure out the big levers to pull. Lift some weights, do a little bit of cardio, get some sun on your skin, have community, learn a new language, do some of that stuff. And then is there lead in your Girl Scout cookies? It doesn't matter. Have fried food once a month, not once a day, those other things then become rounding errors because you've got so much resilience because you're doing so many things right. You can do a little bit wrong then.
I love that.
I see way too many people majoring in the minors instead of just actually grabbing the levers that matter.
Perfect. That's a great message to leave with people. I will link to all things Robb Wolf and the Healthy Rebellion in the show notes for you guys right there in your episode description. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time.